everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our second season sharing series for 2020. That's Finish Strong Practical Strategies to Use Data to Monitor and Maintain a Safe On-Site Learning Environment. My name is Lala Zhang. I'm the co-founder of Learning Genie. Thank you so much for joining us. And this sharing practice will be the collection of best practices and resources and stories from Learning Genie customers, and I hope you found this helpful. And first of all, I'd like to start this webinar with a big thank you for all you do. And you are our heroes and inspirations. 2020 has been very, very challenging, but this is the last month of 2020. You have prevailed with courage, dignity, and resilience. And we believe 2021 will be better when we work together, and we will be stronger. And I just want to share with some of these social media posts we saw and the users of Learning Genie across the country sharing how Learning Genie is helping the ECE community ever since the pandemic started back in March, and how we contribute to the ECE community. And that's also the drive of us. That's also the drive of us putting together this webinar series to be able to share our experience from our users and best practices, and be able to help each other and help the community to find the best practices. And with that, I'm going to get started to introduce our panelists. Today, we have a wonderful panelists from different states of the country. And we have Sherry Doria from Lindsay Unified from California. Sherry, would you mind waving to this audience? And we also have Julene from Central Texas 4C. Julene, would you mind waving to the audience? And we also have Jody from Head Start CFDP, that's actually from Nebraska. And we also have our team member, Learning Genie, and from partnership, our member Morgan and Jerry, and myself. We hope to bring you a good experience for this. Actually, this webinar is more on reopening and safe environment through the pandemic. Actually, Learning Genie worked through back in April. It was Jolene who actually was one of the I would say 10 customers from Learning Genie actually bring up the question, hey, we're thinking about reopening. Would you be able to put together some features to help us with drop off and pick up and the health screening? And we had no idea at that time what that means and how the operation works. And I remember we had our web meeting with Jolene and other members who raised the similar request. And so we worked through the summer and put together a new module, rushed to launch our digital health card and attendance module, and was able to help a lot of users in California and other states to be able to support reopening and also blended learning. So today we are going to share the information about what's new in Learning Genie, in particular to this module for those who are not familiar with this module, and the panels are going to have amazing discussions and sharing of best practices on how they support the learning through this period of time. And we will have a Q&A session. And if you are for question and answers, please use the Q&A box at the bottom. And for greetings or talking to each other, you can use the chat. That will just help us a little bit to manage our chat room and question and answers. Thank you so much. I will hand over to my team member, Morgan, to give you an update on Learning Genie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming in today. I'm Morgan, and I'm part of the Education Partnership team here at Learning Genie. I'm also a former preschool teacher. I'm excited for you all to be here, as well as our lovely panelists. This has definitely been an interesting year, to say the least. But as Lala was saying, we are all very resilient individuals. I'm so excited for next year to come. And I'm going to briefly go over our all-in-one tool, our different modules, and then I'll go over what's new in Learning Genie. So some of our updates on our tool to help schools with tracking children's health. So how is Learning Genie supporting early learning under COVID? So right now, we are an all-in-one tool for families and educators to partner together about children's learning. Staff and admin can schedule and facilitate virtual classroom events, share digital learning resources with families in real time, as well as communicate with families freely without language barriers. You can also share activities and lesson plans with families, as well as track at-home learning. And we do have a measurable data dashboard to track families who are engaging with our Learning Genie app at home. So there are 4 components on Learning Genie I'll be briefly going over. So we have our portfolio and assessment tool, and this tool enables easy organization of observation notes and collaboration between staff to produce quality observations. We have our family engagement tool, which enables two-way communication between teachers and parents with over 100 different languages for families to have their parent app translated into. Staff can also share educational videos, video books, and create virtual events and activities for families. Our in-kind tracking tool, also known as that non-federal match for Head Start agencies, is a paperless collection of in-kind that reduces potential errors, and it also encourages families to contribute in kind. And our digital health card and then contactless attendance tool, this is used for data-driven decision-making to create and provide timely health tracking during this pandemic. And we also have that contactless attendance tool that can be used to track on-site and hybrid attendance. So if families are doing distance learning, you can track that as well. So Learning Genie's dashboard provides a data-driven methodology to guide agencies for continuous quality improvements. So each of our modules do have a data dashboard. We're very data-driven at Learning Genie. Now moving on to some of our digital health card tool, just a brief overview. So Learning Genie has recently launched a HIPAA and compliant digital health screening, which you may be familiar with. But if you're not, this is a tool to support safe reopenings of school. And this digital health screening is less work for staff, which leads to better efficiency, less contact, and it is very cost efficient. So walking through that process, so parents have a digital health card that they submit every day from home so your admin and your agency can track children's health. The questionnaire can be customizable for certain health questions, and our health questions that are already on here are per CDE guidelines. We have a Learning Genie Health dashboard. The Learning Genie Health dashboard empowers administrators who are managing returning students in making data-driven decisions based on real-time health data regarding their school sites. So you can access real-time data across multiple locations and multiple sites and quickly identify hotspots in high-risk areas to mitigate risks. And this Learning Genie health card monitoring was built with public health professionals and experts, so you can take quick action for parents' self-reported data and manage children who are in quarantine and decide what the next steps are going to be. If children have any symptoms, you get notified right away. The dashboard also shows 14-day trends to pinpoint potential hotspots and safe reopenings. So agency leaders can use this data for fast response and transparency and peace of mind for families and staff. We are fully HIPAA and FERPA compliant and employ HTTPS encryption throughout all possible data transfer nodes to ensure the integrity of the data. So Learning Genie's daily health card does come with everything you need to start screening today and ensuring you're in compliance and keeping your staff and your students safe. Now, moving on, so that's a little overview on our daily health card tool. You can always contact us if you'd like more information on how to get started with this tool if you're not using it already. Now, I'll show some updates for our current users who are utilizing our daily health card or contactless attendance tool. You might be familiar with this if you're using our attendance module. Now you can track families who are distance learning and on-site, and it shows you who's distance learning. Families can sign in from home who are distance learning. You can also track on your attendance sheets who's on quarantine, on vacation. So here's that attendance sheet. You can have internal notes to yourself as well if children were in quarantine, so you can easily track this. For our new updates, we can now set entire classrooms to distance learning and set them for consecutive days. So those families who are distance learning can sign in on those specific days they are distance learning, and you can set specific days for your classroom. You can now, on the daily health card stats, you can download and view each child's health status by classroom by clicking this download button when you're in the site view. So you can see different sites and previous health status. So if when they were sick previously, and track that. So those are a couple of our new updates that we've had. Now, please look forward for our YouTube channel videos on Learning Genie. We'll be showing some step-by-step guides on how to do this in YouTube videos, and you can also access additional step-by-step guides if you need any help as well. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to pass the mic over to Jerry, my colleague.
Thank you so much, Morgan. All right, so I have the honor of introducing our panelists today. So now that you know a little bit more about Learning Genie, if you're new to us entirely, or if you're new to the digital health card tool, I'm excited to introduce our panelists because they, like many of you in the audience, are in different phases of reopening, whether you have been open since the beginning of the school year, whether you're still in the planning phase, especially as we head into the new year. Now is kind of the great time to kind of hear some of these tips and see what's been working for them. So they'll be sharing their stories and approaches that may have worked, may not have worked when it came to planning for students' safety and health on campus. So like we said earlier before I introduce them officially, if you have any questions for our panelists during the discussion, please feel free to put that into our Q&A section on your Zoom toolbar. If you have any other comments or tips of your own that have been working on your site, feel free to put those in the chat box for everybody to see. So that'll be really helpful. And then another reminder, if you joined us last time, same thing, we would love for you to be interactive, but also remember everyone's sharing their own experiences that were helpful in their agency. So just be positive and supportive of everything that we have to share here today. So finally, let's hear from our panelists. So I'm going to start off with Sherry. So if you want to go ahead and give us a little background information to you and your role and a little bit about your agency.
Good morning or good afternoon, whatever time it is. I'm Sherry Doria, Director of Preschools for Lindsay Unified School District. And we have Part Day CSPP, we have special education, district migrant, and LCAP funding sources. We provide preschool services to 3 to 5-year-olds. And at capacity, we would be about 465 learners. When in the spring, when we went into shelter in place, we had 451 learners. But obviously, due to the pandemic, we are lower on our numbers this year. And this year we have 303 learners currently enrolled. We are 100% free and reduced lunch district, and we have 41% English language learners. We are currently, I hesitate to say the word closed because none of us are closed. We are all really working very hard, but we are closed to in-person instruction for learners at this time. But we are obviously open, and our staff are working on site to provide distance learning and support to all of our families. Our facilities did close like many others, but not everybody. Some of you were the lucky ones to stay open. But ours closed March 18th, 2020. And we began distance learning right away. And then staff came back in August, and we have been working on site to provide that high quality distance learning, and we continue to prepare for reopening. So with that being said, we had planned to open yesterday. Our opening day was supposed to be December 7th. And however, due to recent recommendations in our area that said that programs shouldn't open between Thanksgiving and Christmas break, on December 1st, we decided to delay our opening. So now our opening is January 12th, 2021. So that right there just shows, I mean, this roller coaster ride that we've been on. We prepare, and then a delay. But it's, you know, we're holding on and we're going for the ride, and eventually we're going to get open for these learners. On January 12th, we will open and provide in-person instruction. We're going to have about 10 to 13 learners in our AM session and 10 to 13 learners in our PM session. And then all of the other learners will continue distance learning. And parents do have a choice of what they prefer. And our program has been using Learning Genie since 2016. I'm not sure how long you guys have been around, but we've been around since we joined. We were on board. We love Learning Genie. Before this year, the parent engagement, the Learning Genie family engagement component was a choice to all of the learning facilitators. But this year we required it, and they are all loving it and needing it. So yeah, that's a little bit about Lindsay Unified.
Yeah, I think that's the same with a lot of our users. If they were kind of using it, like this year has kind of been the year where they just full implementation, and they've been kind of scrambling to get everybody on board. So I'm sure I'm excited to kind of get more into your planning in a little bit. So let's go to Julene, who is joining us from Texas.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Julene Figueroa. I'm a family community coordinator for our Head Start Early Head Start agency. We have about 500 children in our care. We have been open since September. We do have virtual and on-site learning options. We have been using Learning Genie since 2019, the summer of 2019, so before the pandemic. And we just love the Learning Genie features to be able to get messages out to our families, give them services, whether it's resources in the community for food, upcoming events. It's just the whole program in itself has been beneficial to our program.
Great. Thanks, Julian. And we're going to definitely talk more about how you're using Learning Genie to communicate. So stay tuned for that. Let's move to Jody to introduce herself here.
Hi, everybody. So I am from Nebraska, and we have a Head Start program, of course, serving 3 to 5 year olds, early Head Start, birth to 3. And we also have a migrant program. So we actually have ours is located across 6 counties. So we also do not only have, our ones, we have combination programs is what we basically call it, where they are located in the school. And not all of those programs do use Learning Genie, but what comprises the greatest number of our families is in Hall and Adams County, and they actually do use Learning Genie. And we've been with Learning Genie for a couple of years. And although, we have, I don't want to say it has always been a wonderful resource for the educators. It has also been a resource for health, but after the pandemic, it even became a greater resource. And I know we're going to be talking about that and how that changed. We too was in similar situations where we closed down and went to virtual in March and finished out the school year. And of course, having the early Head Start program continue over the summer, we did everything virtual, and the same with the visits and making sure that those happened, delivering food boxes, reaching out to the families, not losing that communication because we know how essential that is. And then we started up again in August. We have went continually. We do have some kids and their families that have chosen to go virtual by their parents, and that is great. We have a very good setup. We can communicate. We can supply materials, over Learning Genie, and a lot of communication, obviously, that occurs over Learning Genie. So that is wonderful. And we've had to not really, close a whole site down, but classrooms during this time, we have possibly had to close down for short stints, for a week, maybe a little bit longer, but that is just as the epidemic, really required more aggressive action. So I think that's all I have.
Great. Yeah, we'll come back to some of the cases that you saw on your campus when we get to talking more about the data and how you're doing contact tracing. So we'll come back to that later in the discussion.
Okay.
But let's jump in here and talk a little bit about the planning phase, which Sherry is in, but all of you kind of went through some form of it. So what would you say were the main challenges and then the priorities that you set up in designing a reopening? Yeah, Jody, if you want to just start since you were already on a roll there.
All right. So of course, the challenges is probably going to be similar, situation between anyone across the country, because we needed to communicate with our families and, provide a lot of information. And we know that families do not read, everything. So we was, supplying short videos, trying to educate and prepare them the best that we could for reopening, but not overwhelm them with so much information. And we did that. I think he was able to go ahead and upload so much of that information onto Learning Genie for our families. And it worked out very, very smoothly. Our families was given the information. If they had questions, they could reach out. Our home visitors, the education staff was in, direct communication, with them via Learning Genie. I might say, and I know we're going to cover a lot of this later, you can communicate so much information, but it can be overwhelming. So you have to really, give it an instance and not overwhelm the family. And I think that is very important, because otherwise they're not going to, read, digest it, and take that information that is needed. I also can reach out to families, as any of the educators do in their scenario, but I can reach out directly to them on Learning Genie, and that gives them one source of communication to where they're not expecting to receive emails, telephone, text, all those types of things. It's a constant, it's a continuum. They know it's Head Start related.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Julian. Was there anything you wanted to add there?
I think that same for us. The challenge was coming up with the pandemic procedures, how to get our information out to our parents where it wasn't overwhelming, but there was reassurance on how we were going to keep the children safe, how we were going to have the contactless sign in, sign out, what the procedures were for taking temperatures of our children, of our parents, of our staff. And just kind of keeping our parents informed. We used Learning Genie. We sent PowerPoints out through Learning Genie. So it was a short message that was clear and concise to just give reassurance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something that we had talked about before in our last conversation was just that you were struggling to make these procedures based on so many sources, right? So you're going through, and this is for everybody. I mean, going through CDC, the public health department at a state and a county level, childcare licensing. There was just so many that you listed. How did you kind of balance this, and kind of what precautions did you take, taking all of those things into account?
So for our Head Start agency, we have a contracted health consultant who is an epidemiologist. So she works doing nothing all day except for dealing with COVID-19. So we were able to utilize that and put these procedures in place with all the guidelines, making sure we had everything in place to make sure it was a safe environment for the children and for staff.
Right. Yeah, that's good, because I mean, I feel like even for us in our offices, there are just so many things, like, and just trying to decide what is the actual regulation that we should follow. I think a lot of the programs that we've talked to are also just kind of taking the most restrictive just to be safe, right? Whatever is like, yeah, I think that has been across the board. And once things opened, it got a little loose, and now things are closing down. And so I think it's always kind of just staying on top of that. It's just a game of being really vigilant, I think. Sherry, did you want to add, what was that?
When we finalized, when we finalized our questions, and updated, it just kind of, tweaked them a little bit as to what Learning Genie had provided. we utilized obviously the CDC, but most importantly, our area health department, who met with us very frequently. And we wanted to make sure they had input, what we were seeing, what was important to us in Nebraska in this location, and we adapted those questions. And knowing too that families would need to be doing this for multiple kiddos possibly in their home, and submitting, we needed to cover everything, but we needed to make it the most simple as possible. And I think we succeeded in doing that, because it is always filled out before they arrive. We know their temperature before drop off. Very occasionally we will have a parent drop off and they've had an issue of getting and maybe it's internet connection, what have you, and we help them do that. So all that contactless, it is so important. It's very crucial in preventing spread during the pandemic, and we have really seen it work well.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Shay. So Shay, did you have anything to add based on the unique challenges for your program?
I mean, I think they were just very similar. One of the things that we also had to keep in mind is our staff were also, not just our parents were scared of certain aspects, but our staff were also scared. So when you're thinking of safety, we also need to think of the staff. And we had some staff that were really affected by COVID and lost many family members. So it was a hard hit for them. And we needed to make sure that they felt safe. And even though, studies are showing that the outbreaks aren't in schools and typically and things like that, but we need to make sure that our staff feel safe, and they're going through a lot along with our parents too. So keeping that in mind. And then obviously the challenges that it is, you never know, it is a roller coaster, and here we planned to open and we didn't. So then last minute trying to communicate that, but thank goodness for Learning Genie, because it is super easy to communicate through Learning Genie with the families. So that's really nice. A challenge that I do foresee though, when reopening, is staffing. I'm really worried about staffing. So I don't know if the other people here, the panelists, can talk about it a little bit, but I worry that I'm going to have people out due to quarantining, and then I'm going to be low on staff and not being able to provide subs for those in-person learners. So that's one of the challenges I'm foreseeing and trying to plan now.
Jody, Julian, any thoughts on the staffing issue?
So we do have staffing issues where we may have to close down a classroom for the day due to staff shortage. We are very conservative in ensuring our staff are healthy when they come to work, and our staff are not allowed to go from one room to another. So a floater, if she is assigned to classroom 1, she will stay with classroom 1 for the day. So if a teacher happens to get sick in classroom 2 midday, just doesn't, starts not feeling well and has to be sent home, we'd have to send home the children. So it is hard with the staff shortage, and staff are scared, and with rising numbers again, I think that fear is returning to the staff population, because it's the holidays, they don't want to bring anything home to their children. So that has started to become, I think, a concern for us as well.
Yeah, and flexibility during this time is huge. And just like Julian said, you can't, I don't want to call it cross-contaminate, but you can't do that. So, we try to, limit who is started in what, room obviously does stay there, but we have to maintain flexibility in case a classroom is shut down and a staff member has to go, to another room, another site. And the staff have been so willing, to do that. Again, when you have combination programs, that are counties away, miles away, you don't have as many resources as what we do at our main sites. So they're the ones that have been targeted and had to actually shut down the classroom for a short period of time and go virtual. But again, maintaining, contact with those families, of which we have done. our staff also does fill out a questionnaire. We make sure that they are healthy before coming on site. And we have about 200 staff that we have to ensure that with. And, you know, they have had to take a big part in this too. And as I have actually told Jerry, you know, along the way, I look forward to the time that staff is, you know, their own piece of Learning Genie, you know, for tracking. We have our own very similar form, you know, that we've utilized questions and it's uploaded and sent, you know, through email. But boy, I sure like, you know, how Learning Genie has set up an email system that you get a separate email when you know that that daily health record is submitted abnormal.
I'm looking forward to that too.
It's wonderful.
Amazing. Sherry, so you actually were so kind as to share a little bit of your materials that you sent out to parents and to staff. So I'm actually going to share that right now with everyone. Just to kind of like going back to what Jody and Julian said about just keeping everything clear and concise for everyone. Sherry, do you want to go over this a little bit? I know I kind of condensed it a bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I just kind of created a reopening guide for staff and then a reopening guide for parents, and they're basically almost the same documents, just obviously the verbiage is a little bit different on some things. But I just started making a list of things, and then each of these bulleted items have a descriptor of exactly how we're going to handle it. And every time I would meet with my staff too, I would ask them, okay, what else are we not thinking of? Because there were things that, like the drinking water, I completely didn't think about. I mean, luckily we haven't started and I caught it in time, but that they can't use the drinking fountain. So, okay, what's our alternative method for them to be provided water? So these are the main topics that we just really put very detailed procedures in place that we'll be following. So, and it was sent to all staff, and not just our staff, but we're located on elementary campuses. So it was sent to all the principals, it was sent to everybody in the district. So everybody is aware of the procedures and how we're handling it. So there aren't any questions being asked. And then that was also sent to parents so that they could feel comfortable that, okay, we have a plan for all of these things and we are taking all of these safety precautions. But in looking at this, you're probably like, Jolene and Jody, you may be like, oh yeah, you forgot this though. So yes, by all means, whatever I forgot, let me know, because I just continue to, as things come up, oh, we need to add that to the plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I loved about this, as just to reiterate, is that you did the same exact categories for both your parents and your staff. So everyone got the exact same information, just details that were pertaining to each party, just so everything was very, very clear on each topic. And so I loved that you had two separate documents, but all the same categories. So that was good. And then the next thing I thought that was interesting that you sent out, nice and visual. That's why I included these ones. Go ahead and explain a little bit on these.
So the first one we actually did back in August, the day in the life of a distance learner, because parents didn't know what that was going to look like. So we wanted to make sure that parents knew exactly what our distance learning was going to be, that they would receive 2 whole group live sessions each day, and they're invited to it. So obviously if they don't attend, that's okay. We're offering it and encouraging, but if they don't attend, we're not dropping, we're still keeping that communication. And then they have a live small group instruction once to twice a week. And then there's also some of our learners who just need a little bit more. Some of our special needs learners who are receiving special education services, or just learners who just need a little bit more. And then there's independent work time at home, the asynchronous, and then check-ins. We're doing weekly check-ins with the family. So that was a kind of a nice visual for the day in the life of the distance learner, so they could see what that was. Obviously, now it'll change a little bit with the in-person, but so then we did do the in-person return instruction, which it's kind of funny now because we didn't open, but we'll, for those of you that are in this planning process, it was nice to provide parents with a plan of what it was going to look like. So we're in the planning process. Then we are contacting families to commit which do you prefer, the in-person and or the distance, so that we can plan accordingly. Then we notify parents, and then we're going to start. And then it has the instructional choices there and the safety protocols that we're following. So
Yeah. And when we talked to you, what was that, maybe a month ago, Sherry, when you were still planning this, something that you had said was like so key for your preparation. And that was that you had parents already filling out the digital health card before you even got back into campus. Like they were practicing and you were just kind of getting them in the habit of doing it. Explain kind of how you got everybody on board that way.
So yeah, once we started in August, we began having them fill out the daily health card. And of course, it was a little slow at first because parents were like, why are we doing this? We're not attending in person. And then we explained to them, and a lot of our parents want the learners to be in person. So that was also kind of an incentive for them. Well, you need to start filling out the health card if you're going to become in person. And it was really nice because it prepares them, and it also helps us to track those learners already right now while they're at home. And I send out the little daily, for those who haven't done it, I send out a whole group reminder, you haven't filled it out, and I'm checking it every day to see what learners, because we are reporting our learners even right now that have either tested positive or that haven't been exposed. So we're reporting them to the district so that we can track all of that. But so yeah, no, that has been a really big help because it's helping our parents to get in the habit of it and understand the importance. And so that when the time comes that we do open, we've already been taking care of that.
Right. Yeah. So we actually had another panel last Friday, and something that came up a lot was this idea of just creating a consistent routine. And if that's going to be part of it, getting your parents on board, getting students on board on this very clear routine is so helpful, just so you can, one, keep track on your end, but also that everyone knows what to expect. So I think that is kind of a good baseline, number one thing to kind of keep in mind when you're planning that reopening. Amazing. So going off of that, I know you guys already talked a lot about general communication, getting parents on board, but let's kind of dive deeper into that idea. So how are you guys all assuring families and making sure that they are properly trained? Not just families and staff. So what are you doing? Sherry, you shared a little bit about how you're communicating, but Jody and Julian, do you want to chime in a little bit about what you guys are doing on your end?
We have actually attached short videos and all of our, I don't want to call, but they are policies as to how we handle the reopening, the phase, the drop off, the pickup times, class size, what would actually happen, when we needed to close a class and go virtual again. All of those, that information was uploaded into Learning Genie. So families had immediate access to the material, and they could read it, whenever they wanted to prior to getting started.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and we had virtual meetings as well to show them how to sign in, sign out. We had virtual open house where they toured the center. We showed them where parents would show up, and we have markers on the ground. Like one of our centers put paw prints, and that's where each family will stand while they wait to be checked in, because we do take the children's temperature and the parents' temperature at the site. So we have all that in place, but we did that through using Zoom, having the parent meetings, the open houses virtually, just to keep them where they felt comfortable using it. And then if they needed additional assistance, I've done one-on-one Zoom trainings with our parents.
Nice. Yeah, sometimes it takes that. I know a lot of like admin and teachers are going in and doing Learning Genie and text messages. It's like whatever you need to do to deliver that message and make sure that they are on board. I think that they're doing it.
And I know a lot of that one-on-one was actually happening, with the education staff and not with, like myself in the health office, because they have so much more, contact time with them face-to-face with the paras, the classroom, all that type of thing. So, and again, if that card is not filled out, then they are doing that right at the door of entry, and that's actually to our building, not to the classroom.
Mm-hmm. So for everyone in the audience who hasn't quite opened their doors to students yet, let's see if we can give them a little bit of an idea of how you have this process set up on campus, the check-in, sign-in process for your students. So if Jody or Julian, you want to kind of give an idea of what that looks like for you guys?
I don't know who wants to go first.
Jody,
here.
we'll have you go first.
Okay, so basically it really does start with that health card, because that health card needs to be, complete, and knowing that they are temperature free, they don't have any signs or symptoms, of COVID. They have not had direct exposure to anybody, with COVID, or any other symptoms that, can be similar, influenza, all of that. But because of being a pandemic, we are mainly concerned about the COVID, obviously. So it all starts, with staff and the kiddos having, that form, filled out and entered, for review. We do a lot of communication. The parents have been trained so well in this that they know if they have those symptoms, they're not, coming in. I try to review those forms, immediately. It's the very first thing I do. And a lot of times, since, parents take in their temps at home, everybody in our, care was actually, provided with a thermometer, so they can easily, do that. We obviously still have, the forehead, contactless thermometers here at Head Start as well, because things can come up during the day, as we all know. But before they are even checked in, we have to have that. We have to know that, basically everything is a no on that health record. And then when they are released at drop-off point, which, that too for us has been staggered and, set up, very safely. So we are not promoting any form, of, not social distancing like we should. And then the drop off and, taking the child. But, we are still doing, monitoring in the classroom, because again, we know that symptoms can develop at any time. And, we have not had too many issues with having to send home during the day. We do have procedures in place. We have some clear view, tents that I am happy to say we have not had to use, but in the scenario that we've had to basically somewhat quarantine, not isolate, because they haven't been tested, but within our facility. With a daily health record, we can very easily, communicate. So as families, fill that out for their child, we can trace. So I want to use for an example, if somebody filled it out yesterday that they have, 2 symptoms, they've had a temperature, they've had fever reducing medication, then I know I get that email and it is separate. So it's easy to, pick out. I'm not having to go over 600 kids, of opening each one and identifying, because Learning Genie has it set up. If there's anything abnormal, then I do receive an email alert to that. So then I'm going to trace that child. Okay, I'm going to follow that child for numerous days, just to make sure, are we symptomatic the next day? Has the child been seen? Has the child been tested? All of those types of things. And there is a note section that is very, very important on there that they can type that in, child has allergies, child was seen by the doctor, we have a note, I'm taking it in to the classroom today stating they don't need to be tested. All of those types of communication pieces that are very, very important when you're trying to reduce the spread during a pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Julian, did you have anything that was different or similar to your process?
Yeah, we're very much similar. We have had positive cases at our center. So the only thing I can probably add to that is that we use the daily health card to be able to track our children to make sure they maintain that they're healthy while we're closed down for the 2 weeks.
Hmm. Yeah, are you both already, do you guys integrate this information to other systems or for sharing purposes? I know, Julian, you work with an epidemiologist and you also work with your Head Start district director, and to kind of share that information and make decisions. How are you kind of keeping this organized?
So luckily we haven't had too many outbreaks or cases, or we haven't had really no outbreaks, but 2 main cases, that, you know, I keep everything organized and I'm the communication piece for our agency, because when there is a concern, we have to close the classroom, the message goes out on Learning Genie to all the parents, all the staff with the closures, and who we've talked to about having to close. So we talked to, of course, Bell County Public Health, our epidemiologist, health consultant, and the Head Start director. And then we also put those messages out on Facebook to just make sure that we're giving as much information to the public, and we're transparent in what we're doing. So for us, I'm kind of the main person who's tracking the stuff in the database.
Okay. Okay, and then you're just able to share that along with, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jody, are you doing something similar? You like, I think
similar. So any of those daily health cards that is returned abnormal for any reason, I go into Child Plus into the health portion and I document it accordingly, because that way I can pull up any child and I can see any ongoing tracking. Because you know, when you're doing that with several hundred kids, it is so difficult to lose some information, you know, in the crack. Now, something that I have also found interesting is, like, if a child is tested and they have tested positive and I am notified, you know, through the daily health record from the parent, and I upload that information to Learning Genie, most obviously, it takes the health department, you know, there's a lag. So it may take them even 2 weeks before we get caught up and get notified, just because they are so overwhelmed with their contact tracing right now. So I am able to go ahead and stay on top of it, you know, with the parents, you know, with any notes, any of that type of thing that is turned in. But again, I just go ahead and I upload that into Child Plus. I document it accordingly, and I can just track and follow, you know, each one that I need to, because we have, you know, you will have kids out for multiple stints, especially, you know, if somebody in their house has had to be quarantined and or isolated, I should say. So, you know, again, especially when you're, you know, tracking attendance, that is a very large piece. You can cross-reference, you know, that information. It does take time, but I think that time is well worth it, because we are all going to look past when the pandemic is over and we're not having to do this anymore.
Right.
You know, one other thing that we, being in 6 counties, we are actually served, or we coordinate with 3 separate health departments. Wow. And that is huge, you know, especially in this piece also.
Yeah. So are you having to consult with each individual?
We do.
Yep. Do you have to do anything too different between the 3, or is it?
Not largely, but yes, because what happens is, especially our northern county, you know, they hit a kind of a red zone much quicker than some of our southerns. Now our southern one, you know, last week, you know, hit that where the others, you know, had reduced somewhat. So, you know, they all have different protocols according to what their dial is in, which then forces us to have, you know, a little bit of different, you know, how we proceed with that accordingly. So yes, it really does, even though it doesn't seem, you know, large at this point, but there are some differences, yes.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And Sherry, I know you're not quite there with all this tracking, but was there anything that you had set in your plan that you were going to be looking for as far as trends or things like that, that you were already kind of thinking about ahead?
So we are actually, even though we're not open for in-person, we are tracking the learners. And so every time that we have a health card notification, except that I don't think I'm getting the email. So I need to meet with you after and figure out that part. I just check it every day. So we have a system. It's a form that we fill out that we submit to our HR department, and they're tracking them. We also have an Excel document just for preschool, so that when learners they test positive or they've been exposed, we're tracking them, which we have an RN that helps. So it's myself, an RN, and preschool office manager that works with that. And then once we do open, then it'll be an additional. So right now it's us and HR, but like Jody said, then we will have HHS or health department and then also licensing. So then we'll have an added 2 people that we need to report to.
Of course, yeah. So keeping all this data nice and organized is key once everybody starts getting involved. And if there's anything that does happen that requires a little bit more attention, definitely. So I'm going to wrap up that part of the section because I definitely want to get to some of the Q&A. So I'm actually going to have Morgan join us back because she's actually been managing the chat, and Lala as well. So let's see what we have from the audience.
Okay, hello everyone. So we do have maybe 2 Q&A. A lot of our panelists answered a lot of the questions already as the questions were being asked, so that was great. A question we had, so for our panelists who are using the contactless sign-in tool as well, what does that process look like?
So for our agency, we are using it. So I went out and visited our sites when we first opened, just to be supportive with the staff, to be able to show the parents how they scan their QR code and they can sign their child in from their phone. Now, if they don't have the technology, they can sign in from our agency iPad, or if technology's down, we do have a separate sign-in sheet. But for us, it was like really advocating for parents to use that and just sign in touchless, because we don't have to then sanitize the iPad after every user. Sanitize pens, they're using their own device, and you can see the signature on our end, so we know it's completed right there live.
Great, thank you. And then I know that Sherry, you are currently doing distance learning. So
we already printed the QR codes for the parents. The staff have been practicing with them, and they've been kind of playing with it with the parents so that they can see what it's going to be like. And I've talked to other districts in our area, and it's been working great. So we're excited to use the QR codes. We're ready. Staff have them already all prepared and ready to go. And thank you for whoever put that in the chat. I just turned on my email notifications. I figured it out.
Great, sounds good.
Wonderful. I have a couple questions to know too. There is one question about, so is there any discussion around making sure that teachers get vaccine as soon as it's approved? Have you had any discussion at your agency about that? No one yet.
Yeah, not yet.
No.
Yeah, no.
Hopefully, it will get to our teachers and healthcare, childcare workers a lot sooner. Okay, and there is another question. Are you having a lot of resistance from parents when reporting their COVID or their cases?
No, we have not at all.
That's great. That's great.
We haven't, and they have allowed us to share their information with our public health to kind of cut down on the tracing the information they have to get. So they've all allowed us to disclose their information for contact.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, we really have not had any resistance, so we've been very lucky.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
And we haven't been open yet, but we did find one family that was hesitant to put, it wasn't the COVID things they were hesitant to put, they were hesitant to put the little things like cough and things like that, because they were afraid anything they put that the CDC would be contacting them. So we explained to them, no, we're not reporting you for every little thing, just put it so that we can keep track. But that was very rare. But just, I mean, if those kind of cases come up, you just need to explain, I think, really thoroughly to the parents how you're utilizing the information.
Mm-hmm. Great, great. Thank you for sharing. There's also another question. What do you do when staff tested positive with COVID, and do you shut down the class or center? I assume Jolene had some cases, and you can share some experience, or other members of panel.
So for our agency, Bell County Public Health, and our health consultant determines if it's a classroom shutdown or if it's a center shutdown. And they advise us on how long we have to be shut down for.
For us, you know, we consult with the health department pretty much just so we make sure that we are on every, you know, the same page. We met with the health departments before opening and when there has been any major change, and we really have not, you know, had any problems. But again, that open communication, and you know, it really depends. You know, we are fully masked in the classroom, and it is, I cannot say how well I am so proud of the kids for doing that. They are so receptive. They have done a wonderful job, as is the educators. We did have to change our style of, you know, lunchtime. That had to look, you know, different, you know, during the pandemic. But, you know, it really depended upon the situation. You know, if we, you know, just the teacher, if anybody at their table, all those types of things we take into consideration in making that decision, and also consulting with the health department as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And there's also a question, actually, I feel like I can answer this question from the Q&A. So is the digital health card translated to other language? Yes, and all Learning Genie's parent app is integrated with over 100 languages. So all the digital health card, the form is translated to the parents' selected native language when they sign in with the app. And they can see the original English version or toggle to the language that they feel more comfortable with. All right, let's see. We were not able to okay, some audience asks, can you put more learning materials in Spanish for parents? Yes, we did have a fully recorded Spanish workshop webinar for the parents, going through all the features, and that's available on our YouTube channel. And during this December break, we are actually going to do more updating of our guides and YouTube tutorials. That's what our team is working on in the next couple of weeks. We finally get the time we can do these backlog of guides and updates. So thank you. I think that's all. Our time is up, actually. So we're going to also go through these questions. If there's any questions related to the Learning Genie features, we will put up a Q&A document and email to you together with the certificate, together with the recording and the slides, and a certificate will also be emailed to you. Give us like 48 to 72 hours so that we can get everything ready. Thank you.
Thanks, Lala. Thanks, Morgan. So you guys also, from the audience, put out a couple tips, and I'm sure there's a bunch more in the chat. So this will be available to you. We'll send out this slide deck for everyone to reference for later, since we are running out of time. So I wanted to wrap up just one last thing from all of our panelists. If you could just give us one quick tip or something that you will be bringing into the new year and past the pandemic. If you can give one tip to our audience, what would it be? If you want to start, Julian.
I would say just make sure you always start onboarding at the first meeting, and it's just all about being excited about Learning Genie and what we can share with the parents, and that it's live to them. It's not something they have to wait for at the end of the day to see. They'll see it right at the time that we send it.
Thanks. Jody, if you want to go next.
Yes, maintain flexibility, stay positive. Your outlook, your personality is going to be carried over by those completing, the forms. So, if you maintain positive, I think it's going to be perceived that way. And they will have, clear expectations, and they're going to be willing, to do it. And I really take that because I think that's why we have not been met with resilience.
And Sherry, to wrap us up.
So I think that sometimes it's really hard for us to look at the positives. This kind of goes along with Jody, all the positives in this challenging situation in these challenging times. But I think that's what's so important, is we really need to focus on the good that can come out of this pandemic. I sat down and I made a list of all of the good things that have come out of this that we can continue after this is over. So, because there's so many other negative things going on, just focus on the things that were good that came out of it that we can utilize in the future and make it even better for our learners.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So kind of going off of that, we are continuing our webinars the next couple days. And so kind of going off of just staying positive and, like looking at the things that were really great from this year. I think all of our administrators and teachers have been so creative in just how they've handled this year. And so we have more panels coming and teachers and administrators who are sharing how they were creative. So tomorrow we'll have a series on on in-kind, if you are a Head Start agency, just see how teachers are handling that. And then on Thursday, we'll be talking more about family engagement and how to get quality observations if you are doing DRDP or other rating systems. So stay tuned for those and register on our website. If you have any other questions for us or anything that we can pass along to our panelists, if you have questions for them, feel free to contact us, or if you have other topics that you'd like us to cover in the future, we'd love to hear them. So yeah, thank you again to all of our panelists. You guys were amazing. And I think a lot of people learned so many different things about how they can kind of start up and go into the new year with some good tips. So thank you for joining us. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you again, everyone. We'll see you next time, everybody in our audience.